Then I want to say to the people that are watching us live on the internet, good morning. And as always, it is good to stand before you on the Lord's Sabbath day. Because this is a day, sisters and brothers, I stress that because the Lord don't change. He set the Sabbath day up before there was even a man created. But you have all kinds of things out here that people are dealing with, sisters and brothers. You'd be surprised at some of the stuff that people call here and ask me about. But we're going to deal with the lesson, sisters and brothers, that old scholars, Old Testamenters, if they understood what Moses represent, they would have no problem knowing who Jesus was when he came on the scene. In fact, the title of this lesson is A Prophet Like Unto Moses. A prophet like unto Moses. You see, one of the things is, one of the big things with my Israelite brothers, they have a problem with Jesus, sisters and brothers. But they think this started since Jesus or the J came into existence. Israel have always had a problem with their God. Always. It is no accident that all the Israelites from 20 years and older that came out of Egypt died in the wilderness. It's no accident. Then again, too, when you look at the prophets, Israel killed the prophets. And when you look at the apostles, Israel chased the apostles down, stoned some of them, killed some of them. And it was Israel that put the Romans up to kill Jesus. And so now you think you done come up with some new thing. You ain't come up with no new thing. But if you are truly a scholar, then you will know who Jesus is, and you would have recognized him when he come on the scene. Because Jesus have a prototype. He is called Moses. Now we're going to look at this. Let's go into Deuteronomy, the 18th chapter. Deuteronomy chapter 18. That's one thing I like about God. He gives you so much evidence on everything he wants you to know until you have to deliberately close your eyes not to see it. And when you do that, he's going to cut you off. It's all that simple. Because years ago, I used to really try to reason with my Hebrew Israelite brothers because I wanted to, I used to really reason. I was at every function trying to get them to see. After a while, I just got tired. I said, skip it. I see what Jesus means when he said they're going to come from the east and west and north and south and sit down in the kingdom of God with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But the children of the kingdom going to be outside where they're going to be weeping and gnashing of teeth. They call that the lake of fire. Because we're the only ones, sisters and brothers, that ever had God to ourselves. And we just dropped the ball. And we refused to pick it up. But somebody got to do it, sisters and brothers. Now we're going to start this and let you know that the Lord already announced this because he's told Israel, because when he gave Israel the 10 Commandments, Israel got scared. And they told Moses, we don't want to talk to you no more. Talk to God no more. We'll talk to you lest we die. The Lord said, okay. I heard him. And this is the results. Verse 15. Deuteronomy 18, and we're going to start reading at verse 15. Okay, go ahead.
The Lord thy God will raise up unto thee a prophet from the
Hold
midst
on.
of...
We can't hear the prophet. Be on your job, brother. Okay, go ahead.
The Lord thy God will raise up unto thee a prophet from the midst of thee, of thy brethren.
He said, you still can't hear? Why is it that we're having a problem with this mic? Is it on?
There it is.
Try it again.
Right.
Go ahead.
The Lord thy God will raise up unto thee a prophet from the midst of thee, of thy brethren.
Go ahead.
Like unto me. Unto him you shall hearken.
Now he said, going to rise up a prophet in the midst of you from among your brethren. One thing is, he's going to be an Israelite, and he is going to be from among Israel. Mm-hmm. He said, and him, you better listen to. Go ahead and read.
According to all that thou desirest of the Lord thy God in Horeb, on the day of the assembly.
Go ahead.
Saying, let me not hear again the voice of the Lord my God, neither let me see this great fire anymore, that I die not.
Now see, he said he's doing this according to what you requested. Mm-hmm. When he spoke to you and gave you the 10 Commandments, the people got scared. And they said, look here, Moses, we'll listen to you. We don't hear the Lord. We don't want to hear the voice of God no more, lest we die. He said, so I'm going to do this according to you. The Lord even honored our request, and we still can't. Go ahead and read.
And the Lord said unto me, they have well spoken that which they have spoken. I will raise them up a prophet from among their brethren, like unto thee, and will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak unto them all that I shall command him.
So now when this prophet that's going to come, which we talking Jesus here, he said, I'm going to put my words in his mouth. See, that's why Jesus only say, speak what his Father said. Mm-hmm. I'm going to put my words in his mouth. He's going to only speak what he is told. But go ahead and read.
And it shall come to pass that whosoever will not hearken unto my words, which he shall speak in my name, I will require it of him.
He said, I'm going to require it of him. Later on, we're going to find out what it means when he said, I will require it of him. Mm-hmm. It ain't something you want to deal with. But he said, he's going to be like me. And the Lord made it so clear. Whoever had these cell phones on, please cut them off. Put them on vibration or cut them off. Okay? Otherwise, somebody had the biggest usher in here tap you on the shoulder and walk you to the door. So we're going to start. Let's go in Exodus, the first chapter. Because we're going to investigate this thing, sisters and brothers. And we're going to show you, when he said, a prophet like unto me, he mean exactly that. Because the Lord know there's going to be a lot of people that's going to come saying that they are that prophet. I'm going to tell you something. Every Israelite that got more than 10 people, he became that prophet. Mm-hmm. I mean, all of them. Bar none. And I know, like I said, I've been looking at Israel for 44 years. All of them, every one of them, that prophet. I mean, even if you were sitting under one that called himself that prophet, what makes you think when you get you 2-3 people, you become that prophet? But that's the way it is in Israel, sister and brother. Everybody want to be that prophet, but don't nobody want to obey that prophet. We're going to start at verse 7. Exodus, the first chapter. And we're going to start reading at verse 7. Because we are going to we're going to look at this thing. Verse 7. Go ahead and read.
And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly, and multiplied and waxed exceeding mighty.
Go ahead.
And the land was filled with them.
See, when Joseph went out into Egypt, sister and brother, he went as a captive. Then he rose to height and brought Israel down. It was 70 souls. There's 70 people that came out of Jacob. But then they started having babies because we're famous for having babies. Can't nobody out-baby us. I mean, like nobody. And so we started having all them babies, and all of a sudden the land was full of us. And the Pharaoh had him a problem with that. Go ahead and read.
Now there rose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. And he said unto his people, behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we.
Go ahead.
Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land.
Now we got to do something about these people in case we get a war. There's too many of them. Go ahead and read.
Therefore they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burden.
Go ahead.
And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses.
So when you want to know who built all these cities and their pyramids, now you know, don't you? Go ahead and read.
But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew.
Now that's one thing about it. When you afflict Israel, you ain't got nothing else to do. Only thing you have is his woman. And he going to make use of it. So the more they did, they multiplied and they grew. Go ahead and read.
And they were grieved because of the children of Israel.
And they just kept having babies. Skip down to verse 15 and go ahead.
And the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of the one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other Puah.
Go ahead.
And he said, when ye do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then you shall kill him.
Go ahead.
But if it be a daughter, then she shall live.
See, that's the way you can kill a whole nation, sisters and brothers. Is all you got to do is kill all the males. Because you are what your father is. I hear people all the time, well, you know, I'm half German and half Russian. I said, what's your father? Russian, or you are all Russian? Same thing with Israel. Jacob, Israel's wives was gotten from most of them from the daughters of Ham. But all of them are Israelites. Mm-hmm. And so he went to the midwives. So I know what a midwife is because that's what delivered me, sisters and brothers. That lets you know I've been around a minute. You know what I mean? But anyway, he asked the midwife, if it would be a male, kill him. If it was a female, save him lying. Because whatever male have a child by that female, the child is whatever the male is. Mm-hmm. Go ahead and read.
But the midwives feared God and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men and children alive.
So they didn't go for that. So then he gave his own people a commandment. Skip down to verse 22. Verse 22 and go ahead.
And Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, every son that is born you shall cast into the river, and every daughter you shall save alive.
Now, when he gave that commandment, sisters and brothers, there was no way that the Israelites could hide their children. I mean, your neighbors, everybody was watching the Israelites. You show up with, if a male is born, here come the Pharaoh's army. They cast him into the river. And now, you know, it was the Nile. Alligators must have ate real good. Mm-hmm. But in the meantime, Moses came on the scene. Let's go in the second chapter of Exodus and verse 1. Second chapter of Exodus and verse 1. Go ahead and read.
And there went a man of the house of Levi and took to wife a daughter of Levi.
Go ahead.
And the woman conceived and bare a son. And when she saw him that he was a goodly child, she hid him 3 months. And when she could not longer hide him, she took for him an ark of bulrushes and daubed it with slime and with pitch and put the child therein. And she laid it in the flags by the river's brink.
Now, this woman couldn't hide him no more. You understand? So she made a little old boat and she put him in the weeds by the riverside, right there at the edge. Because she couldn't hide him because everybody's looking. Mm-hmm. So she just didn't want to see him die. So she did the best she could. But then, let's see what happened. Go ahead and read.
And his sister stood afar off, to wit what would be done to him. And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river, and her maidens walked along by the riverside. And when she saw the ark among the flags, she sent her maid to fetch it.
Go ahead.
And when she had opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the babe wept.
So what did he do? The Lord sent Moses right up into Pharaoh's house. So when the baby started weeping, she felt sorry for the baby, compassion. And what happened? Go ahead and read.
And she had compassion on him and said, this is one of the Hebrews' children. Then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter, shall I go and call to thee a nurse of the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for thee?
Go ahead.
And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, go. And the maid went and called the child's mother.
Now look, sister and brother. Now, you couldn't raise no Hebrew boy because they were trying to kill him. But then, all of a sudden, Moses became Pharaoh's grandson. Different dynamic.
Yeah.
But I tell you something else too, sisters and brothers. Egypt and Israel was the same color. Same people. So what happened? She went and got his mother. Now, you know, you look at that 10 Commandments now, you just see they lied. That Moses got old before he knew he was an Israelite. No, he always knew. His mother taught him. Go ahead and read.
And Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, take this child away and nurse it for me, and I will give thee thy wages. And the woman took the child and nursed it.
Ain't that something? Not only did she save her son, she got paid for nursing it. Go ahead and read what verse?
We have verse 10. And the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she called his name Moses. And she said, because I drew him out of the water.
So now, Pharaoh's daughter is the one that named Moses. But with Moses, he was the only one that was left in Israel, his age. Now, let's go. And how did the Lord save him? By sending him up into Pharaoh's house. So now, if Israel looked like us, and the Egyptians looked like the people over there that called him Egyptian, Pharaoh said, hey, man, hey, baby, you know, you must have been smoking something. Or either the people that call themselves us went to Pharaoh's house. Ain't no way he could have got away with it, sister and brother. Don't you know the word Egypt means black?
That's right.
So now, Moses was the only one in his generation left alive. I'm talking about the same age. Now let's go and have a look at Jesus. Let's go into Matthew, the 2nd chapter. See, when the Lord said, the Lord told Moses, I'm going to raise up one among you, from a prophet among you like unto me. I'm going to show you, sisters and brothers, he literally meant it. So, if you are that prophet, like every one of them Hebrews that come up is that prophet. I ain't lying. I can name them all. They ain't called no name, but they come out their mouth. All of them that prophet. Then I asked them all, do you know anybody else your age? You couldn't even count them with a computer. In your nation? If you do, then you are not that prophet. Too many things had to happen. Too many things. 2 and 1. Matthew the 2nd chapter, and we're going to start reading at verse 1. Matthew the 2nd chapter and verse 1. Go ahead.
Now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king,
go ahead.
Behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem.
Go ahead.
Saying, where is he that is born king of the Jews?
Don't you know since before 7 AD and Israel got scattered in all over the world, every time they referred to Jesus, it was as the king of the Jews or the king of Israel. It's just this nowadays, once the Gentiles got the word in their hand, they were separating you from your king. And then these Hebrews have followed suit. That's why when somebody says, oh, you Hebrew and Israelite and a Christian too, I said, who can be better one than me? When the word Christian was first given to the church, there was not one non-Hebrew Israelite in it. Not one. Paul hadn't been released. Even Peter had not spoken to Cornelius. Not one. Now you're going to tell me these last days that I don't know what a Christian is? I am the original Christian. I taught you what you know. You understand what I'm saying? Because I understand what everything means. So now, when the wise men come, they said, where is he that's born king of the Jews? They knew exactly who they was looking for. Go ahead and read.
For we have seen his star in the east, and are come to worship him.
Go ahead.
When Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him.
Now Herod heard it, he was troubled. And when Herod was troubled, sisters and brothers, everybody better be troubled, because this guy was one murderous man. He killed everybody. So when he tried to catch Jesus, he done killed a lot of people for the same reason he killed Jesus, because he thought he was trying to usurp him. So now, I want you to let me know where he is, so I could come and worship him too. That was verse 2, right?
Yeah, that was verse
3. Skip down to verse 7 and go ahead.
Then Herod, when he had privately called the wise men, inquired of them diligently what time the star appeared. And he went to Bethlehem and said, go and search diligently for the young child. And when ye have found him, bring me word again, that I may come and worship him also.
The last thing he wanted to do was worship Jesus. Skip down to verse 11 and go ahead.
And when they were come into the house, they saw the young child with Mary, his mother, and fell down.
Wait a minute, when they come into the house? I thought they found him in the manger.
No.
Anyway, we ain't going to elaborate on it. Go ahead and read. What did they do? They found the young child?
And fell down.
And fell down and worshiped it. You notice it didn't tell you how many either? Skip down to verse 11 and go ahead.
We're in verse 11.
Verse 11?
Yeah, we're in the middle.
Go ahead and read.
And worshiped him, and when they had opened their treasures, they presented unto him gifts, gold and frankincense and myrrh. And being warned of God in a dream that they should not return to Herod, they departed into their own country another way.
So God warned them wise men. Said, look, don't go back there. You going on to your country. Herod want to kill this boy. So they went on back to their own country. Go ahead.
And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise, and take the young child and his mother, and flee into Egypt. And be thou there until I bring thee word, for Herod will seek the young child to destroy him.
Now what did he do? He said, arise and go into Egypt. Why didn't the the angel tells Jesus, arise and go into Italy. Or somewhere on the European continent. You know why? It's because Herod was a Roman vessel. He was installed by the Romans. All Herod had to do was tell the Caesar, I'm looking for this family. I want you to send them back to me. And they would have brought them back. So they didn't go down into Egypt for protection. He went down into Egypt to hide. All of a sudden, the black family would have showed up on the European continent. They would have known it. But then the black family showed up on the Egyptian continent. And in Egypt, it's just another black family. But where did he go for protection? Egypt. He went down in Egypt. Where did Pharaoh, Moses go to be hid? In the house of Egyptian. What verse is that?
We have 14.
Go ahead.
When he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night and departed into Egypt. And was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken of the Lord by the prophet, saying, out of Egypt have I called my son. Then Herod, when he saw that he was mocked of the wise men, was exceeding wroth. And sent forth and slew all the children that were in Bethlehem and in all the coast thereof, from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had diligently inquired of the wise men.
Look, when Romans must have appointed this cat because he was brutal, because he wasn't smart. It took him 2 years to figure out that these guys weren't going to come back to him. That's why he killed all the babies from 2 years and back. 2 years, sisters and brothers. He wasn't smart at all. But he was brutal. I read the history on this guy. That's what the Romans wanted, a brutal man. You understand? And so now, the Lord had him down in Egypt all that time, just like Moses was in the house of Pharaoh. But then something happened. Let's go into Exodus, the 2nd chapter. Moses had to leave Egypt. So we established one thing. We got all the males Moses' age in Israel was killed, wasn't it? And all the males in Jerusalem, because Israel was scattered, so we had to confine it to Jerusalem. Jesus' age was killed. We have two similar things, don't we? We have Moses went in the house of Pharaoh to hide, and Jesus went into the nation of Pharaoh to hide. So these things, sisters and brothers, when the Lord says something, he means it. Everybody think that the Lord says something, well, it don't quite mean what it say. When the Lord says something, he means everything he say. Down to the last word. There is no room for interpretation or paraphrasing. You just tell it the way it is. Exodus 2, and we're going to start at verse 11. Exodus 2 and 11. Because Moses knew who he was, and he grew up, and he acted like an Israelite would react when he saw one of his brothers being abused at that time. Verse 11, go ahead.
And it came to pass in those days, when Moses was grown, that he went out unto his brethren and looked on their burdens, and he spied an Egyptian smiting an Hebrew, one of his brethren.
Go ahead.
And he looked this way and that way, and when he saw that there was no man, he slew the Egyptian and hid him in the sand.
Then Moses, he didn't want nobody to know he was an Egyptian, but Israelite, but he knew it. So he looked around, make sure there wasn't no Egyptian looking at him. And he killed this cat and hid him in the sand. But the only problem is, he left the cat that he was among the Israelites. And boy, we can't hold water in a balloon with no hose in it. So what happened? Go ahead and read.
And when he went out the second day, behold, 2 men of the Hebrews strove together. And he said to him that did the wrong, wherefore smitest thou thy fellow? And he said, who made thee a prince and a judge over us?
He said, look, why are you beating up on your brother? Man, this is your brother. He said, who made you a prince and a judge over us? Go ahead and read.
Intendest thou to kill me as thou killedest that Egyptian? And Moses feared and said, surely this thing is known.
Look here, Moses knew who he did. Oh, no. This thing is known, because Israel, look, not only can we can't keep a secret among ourselves, we can't keep it from nobody. This is why I know this. Go ahead and read.
Now when Pharaoh heard this thing...
Who do you think he heard it from? Let's think about it. That's why if you got a secret, you don't tell it to nobody. Especially among Israelites. Go ahead and read. And Herod heard about it. Go ahead and read.
He sought to slay Moses, but Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian, and he sat down by a well.
So Moses had to run for his life. Sit down by a well in Midian. Go ahead and read.
Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water and filled the troughs to water their father's flock.
Go ahead.
And the shepherds came and drove them away, but Moses stood up and helped them and watered their flock. And when they came to Reuel, their father, he said, "How is it that ye are come so soon today?" And they said, "An Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds, and also drew water enough for us and watered the flock."
They didn't say, "How did y'all come?" See, apparently he didn't have nothing but girls. Them guys would muscle him out the way. And once they watered theirs, then the girls was always last. But being that Moses was there, that let me know that Moses was a fierce warrior. He dealt with them dudes and let them girls water their flock. So when they got back early, he wanted to know, why it is that you so early? They said, "An Egyptian delivered us." Not an Hebrew Israelite in Egyptian clothing. An Egyptian. Why did they call him an Egyptian? Because he dressed and looked like an Egyptian. These things, sisters and brothers, we're supposed to pay attention to. Skip down to verse 21 and read it.
And Moses was content to dwell with the man, and he gave Moses Zipporah, his daughter.
So Moses stayed there. He dwelled with him, and he ended up marrying one of the daughters. Skip down to verse 25. Verse 25 and read it.
And God looked upon the children of Israel, and God had respect unto them.
Now, after a while, the children of Israel was getting beat up more and more. And the Lord looked, so he decided, okay then, I'm going to send Moses back. Let's go into Exodus, the 3rd chapter. That's why I tell people, all you got to do is read this Bible. You read the Bible, it's going to tell you. It's going to tell you who you are, who everybody else is, what you're supposed to do, and what you're supposed to know. But you got to read it. But don't nobody read, sisters and brothers. I ain't going to lie to you. I was looking at a TV preacher last night. I forgot his name. I ain't going to call his name anyway. I was so impressed, I called him. And I told him, I said, I am really impressed. Killed Easter, killed Christmas, knew that it was Jesus in the Garden of Eden, knew that it was Jesus that drowned everybody but 8 people. I said, I am so impressed. I said, if you know who was talking to you, you know I ain't lying. He said, who is that? I said, Brother Boy from the... Oh, Brother Boy. He went through a thing. Because he know I don't like preachers. You understand what I'm saying? And if I said you impress me, you have really impressed me. I had to call this gentleman. I couldn't believe it. I said, I can't believe what my ears is hearing. I couldn't turn away from the channel. I even told him, I said, I even hear a little me and you. He said, I watch it all the time. Okay. I'm not saying that to take credit. I'm just telling you this conversation, sisters and brothers. Because I can tell that this man read. He even had him a reader. She's a woman with her head wasn't covered, but still, one brick at a time. I was impressed. I was impressed. Exodus 3 and 1. Exodus 3 and verse 1. Okay, go ahead.
Now Moses kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian. And he led the flock to the backside of the desert and came to the mountain of God, even to Horeb. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush burned with fire, but the bush was not consumed.
Go ahead.
And Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, while the bush is not burnt.
See, the Lord knew how to get your attention. There was an angel in the bush. And the bush was on fire, but it wouldn't burn up. So Moses wanted to do this because the Lord wanted to get your attention. He always do stuff like that. That's why it wasn't no big change when them fiery tongues showed up on the day of Pentecost, because the Lord operated like that. Go ahead and read.
And when the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, God called unto him out of the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses. And he said, Here am I.
So God called unto him, but the angel was in the bush. What's God doing in there with the angel? Because the Lord communicates through angels. He told you they are going to only do what he said. So when he said Moses, Moses was God called him, but it was by the mouth of an angel. Reason I have to explain everything, sisters and brothers, because the world is so mixed up. Go ahead and read.
And he said, draw not nigh hither. Put off thy shoes from off thy feet, for the place whereon thou standest is holy ground.
So now the Lord got his attention, and the Lord going to tell him what he wanted with him. Skip down to verse 10. Verse 10 and read it.
Come now, therefore, and I will send thee unto Pharaoh, that thou mayest bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt.
Now he's getting ready to send him back from where he fled from. Moses had been down there for 40 years. Now let's go into Exodus, the 4th chapter. Exodus chapter 4. And we're going to start at verse 10. Exodus 4 and 10. Because Moses tried to get out of this. It's obvious that Moses had a speak problem, but the Lord ain't concerned with that. When he want to send you somewhere, you're going to say what he needs you to say, and everybody going to understand you that he sent that wants to understand. Verse 10, go ahead.
And Moses said unto the Lord, O my Lord, I am not eloquent, neither heretofore, nor since thou hast spoken unto thy servant, but I am slow of speech and of a slow tongue.
Ain't that something? Can you imagine that? Moses, one of them guys that talk real slow that you get tired of in a minute. Because you be waiting for him to say something. And it takes him forever to say it. Moses was one of those guys. But the Lord had provided. You understand? Skip down to verse 14. Verse 14 and go ahead.
And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Moses. And he said, is not Aaron the Levite thy brother?
Go ahead.
I know that he can speak well. And also, behold, he cometh forth to meet thee, and when he seeth thee, he will be glad in his heart.
He said, look, I know your brother Aaron, he can speak real good. Now he's coming to meet you. Go ahead and read.
And thou shalt speak unto him, and put words in his mouth. And I will be with thy mouth, and with his mouth, and will teach you what ye shall do.
He said, now I'm going to be with your mouth, and I'm going to be with his mouth, and I'm going to tell you what you should do. In other words, you speak to him, and he's going to speak to Pharaoh. Skip down to verse 19. And go ahead.
And the Lord said unto Moses in Midian, go, return into Egypt, for all the men are dead which sought thy life.
So now he told Moses, now you go ahead on and return to Egypt. Don't worry about it. All the men are dead that sought to kill you. So he sent him on back. Now let's go into Matthew, the 2nd chapter, and we're going to look at Jesus, sisters and brothers. Because we don't do no reading. And we don't know nothing. And when you open your mouth and somebody check you, you get upset. It's just like I said to the gentleman last night. I said, well, some things I said, I want you to understand something. I said, you're doing well. I said, but remember, the doctrine that you are teaching is not yours, it's the Lord's doctrine. And I said, sometime you get wrong, you might be corrected. He said, I'll be delighted. I'll be glad to be corrected. Can I call you? Knock yourself out. I just said, I'm going to let him know, hey, you got a lot of good stuff, but sooner or later, he fell off the train a couple of times, but I wasn't there to bite him. I was there to let him know I am impressed. And I was impressed. I couldn't believe my ears. He had the little collar on and all the stuff. But he was going for it. I couldn't believe it. And I couldn't help myself. I had to call this guy. Matthew 2 and verse 19. 2 and 19. See, when you read the book, sisters and brothers, you can rest on it. You don't have to argue about it. You just read it. Take it or leave it. Verse 19, go ahead.
But when Herod was dead, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt.
Now, when Herod had killed the babies, when he was dead, angel appeared to Joseph in Egypt. Go ahead and read.
Saying, arise and take the young child and his mother and go into the land of Israel, for they are dead which sought the young child's life.
Don't that sound familiar? Just like the angel told Moses, go back down to Egypt. Because all the people are dead that sought to kill you. Then the angel told Joseph, take Jesus back, because all of they are dead that sought the child's life. That wasn't no accident, because he wanted everybody to know that this Jesus was the one like unto Moses, sisters and brothers. I'm that prophet. I asked, have you been to Egypt? You ain't never come out of Mississippi. How many people your age? Everybody. Have the angel ever come and said anything to you? Are you a parent? You have to match this, sister and brother. You have to match this. Y'all understand? Now let's go into Exodus the 7th chapter. We're going to show you something else that had to happen. And it wasn't no accident the way the Lord dealt with Pharaoh down in Egypt. Exodus chapter 7. I remember years ago when the Lord was showing me this and I was putting this lesson together. I'm going to tell you something. I was really, really on what you call number 10. I was high. Because I said, boy, I can't believe this. I simply can't believe this. He literally meant like unto Moses. I just couldn't believe it. Then I started to understand this Moses is a prototype of Jesus. That's why it didn't surprise me that all Israel was baptized unto Moses. This God we serve is a wise God. Verse 1. Exodus 7 and 1. Go ahead.
And the Lord said unto Moses, See, I have made thee a God to Pharaoh, and Aaron thy brother shall be thy prophet.
That is really something, man. But go ahead and read.
Thou shalt speak all that I command thee, and Aaron thy brother shall speak unto Pharaoh that he send the children of Israel out of his land. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and multiply my signs and my wonders in the land of Egypt.
He said, but I'm going to harden his heart. And I'm going to magnify my wonders. Go ahead and read.
But Pharaoh shall not hearken unto you, that I may lay my hand upon Egypt, and bring forth mine armies, and my people, the children of Israel, out of the land of Egypt by great judgments.
He said, but look, Pharaoh ain't going to listen to you, that I may lay my hands on Egypt. See, this is the way the Lord operates. You mess with his, he going to collect. Yes. He going to mess with you. That's why everything that happened to us in this country and all the other countries that brought us in captivity and all the abuse and beat down and denigration that we have suffered, they're going to pay for every minute of it. Right. The one that done died, he's going to wake him up. Oh, you got a debt. And kill him again. This is the way the Lord operates. Right. He didn't have to do this to Egypt, but he said, but I am going to harden Pharaoh's heart that I may lay my hands on Egypt. And this is what people don't understand. Because some of the stuff that the Lord did to Egypt, how could this man not say, hey, look here, I can't fight with God. Get on out of here. The first one would have been enough for me. Right. And we're going to show you. Verse 5, go ahead.
And the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord, when I stretch forth my hand upon Egypt and bring out the children of Israel from among them.
He said, they're going to know that I'm the Lord when I lay my hands on them. Because I'm going to lay some hands on them. Skip down to verse 14. Verse 14 and go ahead.
And the Lord said unto Moses, Pharaoh's heart is hardened. He refuses to let the people go.
Hey, man, I done closed his mind up like a lettuce. He ain't going to let the people go. Go ahead and read.
Get thee unto Pharaoh in the morning. Lo, he goeth out unto the water. And thou shalt stand by the river's brink against he come.
Go ahead.
And the rod which was turned to a serpent shalt thou take in thine hand. And thou shalt say unto him, the Lord God of the Hebrews hath sent me unto thee, saying, let my people go.
Ain't that something? Now, he can't let you go because the Lord done fixed his mind. But he said, I want you to go, and the Lord God of Israel, the Hebrews said, let my people go. And no one answered. Go ahead and read.
That they may serve me in the wilderness. And behold, hitherto thou wouldest not hear. Thus saith the Lord. And this thou shalt know that I am the Lord. Behold, I will smite with the rod that is in mine hand upon the waters which are in the river, and they shall be turned to blood. And the fish that is in the river
now, he said, I'm going to smite the river, and they're going to turn to blood. Told the man what we're going to do. And what did he do? Skip down to verse 20. Verse 20 and go ahead.
And Moses and Aaron did so, as the Lord commanded. And he lifted up the rod and smote the waters that were in the river in the sight of Pharaoh and in the sight of his servants, and all the waters that were in the river were turned to blood.
Ain't that something? Turn the waters to blood. You know, and that was, in fact, I should open this blackboard up because I want to show you these signs. You know, he smote it and he turned the water to blood. That was the first plague. Because we need to understand something here, sisters and brothers. We're going to show it to you. Now skip now to verse 22 and read it.
And the magicians of Egypt did so with their enchantments. And Pharaoh's heart was hardened.
Go ahead.
Neither did he hearken unto them as the Lord had said.
Now look, we're going to show you this here, sister and brother. Now the first plague, the Lord brought blood, turned the waters to blood. Because this means something here. That's one plague. And so now, the Lord still hardened Pharaoh's heart that Pharaoh wouldn't do what he said. Because he wanted to deal with him. Now let's go into the 8th chapter of Exodus. 8. So the more I learned about the Word of God, sisters and brothers, the more I started checking myself so I wouldn't be making debt with this guy, because this guy will collect on you. Well, since I turned to the Lord, things been going bad. I said, well, you got some bad debt. Exodus 8 and 1. Go ahead.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, Go unto Pharaoh and say unto him, Thus saith the Lord,
Go ahead.
Let my people go, that they may serve me.
Go ahead.
And if thou refuse to let them go, behold, I will smite all thy borders with frogs. And the river shall bring forth frogs abundantly, which shall go up and come into thine house, and into thy bedchamber,
Go ahead.
and upon thy bed, and into the house of thy servants.
Look at that, would have been enough for me. Go ahead.
And upon thy people, and into thine ovens, and into thy kneading troughs.
Ain't that something? I mean, I'm going to frog you down. Skip down to verse 6 and let's see what happened. Verse 6, go ahead.
And Aaron stretched out his hand over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs came up and covered the land of Egypt.
Ain't that something? And I mean, went everywhere. So the second plague, he brought frogs. And believe me, sister and brother, I'm afraid of frogs. I ain't scared of snakes, but I'm afraid of frogs. I don't understand. That's a weird thing, ain't it? When the first frog jumped up out the lake, I said, I don't care. Okay. Whatever you want, I'm going to do. Skip down to verse 8. Verse 8 and go ahead.
Then Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron and said, Entreat the Lord, that he may take away the frogs from me. And from my people, and I will let the people go, that they may do sacrifice unto the Lord.
He said, look, go and entreat the Lord, take these frogs up off us, because I'm talking about everywhere, in your bed, in your oven, everywhere you went, you got a bunch of frogs looking at you. No, look, I'm going to do good. But the whole thing, sisters and brothers, the Lord was doing the mind hardening. Skip down to verse 13. Verse 13. See, this is what people don't understand. God will get you. And he'll make you do stuff to hurt yourself if you keep being stupid. Verse 13, go ahead.
And the Lord did according to the word of Moses, and the frogs died out of the houses, out of the villages, and out of the field. And they gathered them together upon heaps, and the land stank.
Ain't that something? He just killed them all. Now they had to get them a big piles of them. I mean, the whole land stunk with dead frogs. That should have been enough, shouldn't it? Go ahead and read.
But when Pharaoh saw that there was respite, he hardened his heart and hearkened not unto them as the Lord had said.
Ain't that something? Oh, hey, you done clean it up now, skip it. I don't have to do this here. But he didn't know the Lord was messing with his head. He hardened his heart. Go ahead and read.
And the Lord said unto Moses, Say unto Aaron, Stretch out thy rod and smite the dust of the land, that it may become lice throughout all the land of Egypt.
Go ahead.
And they did so. For Aaron stretched out his hand with his rod and smote the dust of the earth, and it became lice in man and in beast. All the dust of the land became lice throughout all the land of Egypt.
So you can't escape because you got dust on you now. All of a sudden, this dust is on your body turning to lice. So this is the third one here. Lice. Why? Because of what Israel did to, what Pharaoh Egypt did to Israel. The Lord collected. Skip down. In fact, read verse 8. Skip down to verse 8.
Verse 18.
Verse 18? Mm-hmm. Okay, go ahead.
And the magicians did so with their enchantments to bring forth lice, but they could not.
Now, and then all of a sudden now, this is the hand of the Lord here. We can't do this. Go ahead and read.
So there were lice upon man and upon beast. Then the magician said unto Pharaoh, this is the finger of God. Okay,
see what he had the magician, they go and do some little bitty witchcraft and they do it. But we can't do this. In fact, them lice was eating them up. But this is the finger of God. Go ahead and read.
And Pharaoh's heart was hardened. And he hearkened not unto them as the Lord had said.
So Pharaoh got mad again. I ain't doing nothing. Y'all ain't going nowhere. Go ahead and read.
And the Lord said unto Moses, rise up early in the morning and stand before Pharaoh. Lo, he cometh forth to the water, and say unto him, thus saith the Lord, let my people go, that they may serve me.
Go ahead.
Else, if thou wilt not let my people go, behold, I will send swarms of flies upon thee, and upon thy servants, and upon thy people, and into thy houses, and in the houses of the Egyptians shall be full of swarms of flies, and also the ground whereon they are.
Ain't that something? Your house full of flies. When you walk out the house, the flies are all over the ground. You can't walk. But the Lord knew how to bring some grief on you, don't he? But look what he did here. Go ahead and read.
And I will sever in that day the land of Goshen, in which my people dwell.
Go ahead.
That no swarms of flies shall be there, to the end thou mayest know that I am the Lord in the midst of the earth.
Now look here, sisters and brothers. He said, but I'm going to separate my people. Now this is where the separation comes. From this point on, it's all on the Egyptians now. Israel have been separated. What verse are we?
We have verse 23.
Go ahead.
And I will put a division between my people and thy people. Tomorrow shall this sign be.
Go ahead.
And the Lord did so. And there came a grievous swarm of flies into the house of Pharaoh, and into his servant's house, and into all the land of Egypt. The land was corrupted by reason of the swarm of flies.
Ain't that something? I mean, all over the place. Nothing but flies. But that was the first one that Israel did not suffer. Remember the first time everybody in Egypt, but now you have a new count. You have one. Flies. What verse are we?
We have verse 25.
Okay, let's skip down to, no, go ahead and read it.
And Pharaoh called for Moses and for Aaron and said, go ye, sacrifice to your God in the land. And Moses said, it is not meet so to do, for we shall sacrifice the abomination of the Egyptians to the Lord our God.
He said, no, we got to go out of this land. Skip down to verse 30 and go ahead.
And Moses went out from Pharaoh and entreated the Lord. And the Lord did according to the word of Moses, and he removed the swarms of flies from Pharaoh, from his servant, and from his people. There remained not one.
Okay, took all the flies away. Go ahead and read.
And Pharaoh hardened his heart at this time also. Neither would he let the people go.
Ain't that something? That's let you know this Lord is working on this guy. He hardened his heart again? No, y'all ain't going nowhere. Let's go in the 9th chapter of Exodus. Exodus 9th chapter and verse 1. Go ahead and read.
Then the Lord said unto Moses, go in unto Pharaoh and tell him, thus saith the Lord God of the Hebrews.
Go ahead.
Let my people go, that they may serve me. For if thou refuse to let them go, and will hold them still, behold, the hand of the Lord is upon thy cattle which is in the field, upon the horses, upon the asses, upon the camels, upon the oxen, and upon the sheep. There shall be a very grievous murrain. And the Lord shall sever between the cattle of Israel and the cattle of Egypt. And there shall nothing die of all that is the children of Israel.
He said, now you tell him, let my people go. Because if not, I'm going to put hell and I'm going to kill all your cattle and your sheep. And it's going to be a great mourning. But ain't one cow going to die among my people. Not one. Go ahead and read.
And the Lord appointed a set time, saying, tomorrow the land shall do this thing in the land. And the Lord did that thing on the morrow, and all the cattle of Egypt died.
Now, he came through and he killed all the cattle of Egypt. Look, sisters and brothers, this was the second plague that we just going to put the numbers up there. I'm going to run out of blackboard. There's a second plague that he did. He killed all the cows. But go ahead and read.
But of the cattle of the children of Israel died not one.
He didn't kill one cow. What verse was that?
We finished verse 6.
Go ahead.
And Pharaoh sent, and behold, there was not one of the cattle of the Israelites dead. And the heart of Pharaoh was hardened, and he did not let the people go.
He got mad when he saw that. You mean he really meant that he gonna kill all our cows and don't kill none of them? Look, I ain't letting them go nowhere. That lets you know that God had to be working with this guy's head. Can't nobody in their right mind be that stupid. Go ahead and read.
And the Lord said unto Moses and unto Aaron, take to you handfuls of ashes of the furnace, and let Moses sprinkle it toward the heaven in the sight of Pharaoh.
Go ahead.
And it shall come to, and it shall become small dust in the land of Egypt, and shall be a boil breaking forth with blains upon man and upon beast throughout all the land of Egypt.
Ain't that something? Now that's really bad there. He's just gonna get in some ashes and throw it up in there. All of a sudden you breaking out on boils on. Oh, boy, let God know how to hurt you, boy. Go ahead and read.
And they took ashes of the furnace and stood before Pharaoh, and Moses sprinkled it up toward heaven, and it became a boil breaking forth with blains upon man and upon beast.
And he did it. Now, this was the second one, third one, rather, that he did. I'm just going to write them big, skip all the other stuff. Okay, this is the... with the boils. We're not going to worry about all of it. Since we get the numbers right, that's what's going to count. Okay, what verse?
We're at verse 11.
Go ahead.
And the magicians could not stand before Moses because of the boil.
They had boils on them too. Go ahead and read.
For the boil was upon the magicians and upon all the Egyptians. And the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, and he hearkened not unto them as the Lord had spoken unto Moses.
And he still wouldn't let them go. So the Lord said, I got to do something else to him. Skip down to verse 18. Skip down to verse 18 and go ahead.
Behold, tomorrow about this time I will cause it to rain a very grievous hail, such as hath not been in Egypt since the foundation thereof, even until now.
And so I'm going to make it rain now. Since the boils won't work, go ahead and read.
Send therefore now and gather thy cattle and all that thou hast in the field, for upon every man and beast which shall be found in the field and shall not be brought home, the hail shall come down upon them, and they shall die.
Now, and this is a lot some of the Egyptians started listening to. Some of the Egyptians went out there and put their cows in the house. But then, we're not there for this. Skip down to, what was that, verse what?
We just finished 19.
Finish it. And skip down to verse 22 and read it.
And the Lord said unto Moses, stretch forth thine hand toward heaven, and that there may be hail in all the land of Egypt, upon man and upon beast, and upon every herb of the field throughout the land of Egypt. And Moses stretched forth his rod toward heaven, and the Lord sent thunder and hail, and the fire ran along upon the ground, and the Lord rained hail upon the land of Egypt.
So now he came and he rained hail upon the land of Egypt. Okay, and this is another time. Remember now, Israel have been separated from the Egyptians. This is only happening to the Egyptians now, not Israel. Skip, what verse was that?
We just finished 23.
Skip down and read verse 20. That was 22?
We finished 23.
Read verse 25. Verse 25, go ahead.
And the hail smote throughout all the land of Egypt, all that was in the field, both man and beast. And the hail smote every herb of the field and brake every tree of the field.
So now, that hail didn't miss nothing. The Lord was really working on Egypt, sisters and brothers. So which one was that?
That was the fourth one, hail.
That was the fourth one. Skip right on down to verse 35 and go ahead.
And the heart of Pharaoh was hardened, neither would he let the children of Israel go, as the Lord had spoken by Moses.
You know, when I read this, I said, boy, God really had a grip on Pharaoh's mind. Because there ain't no way you wouldn't capitulate. Say, whatever, Lord, they can go. Get on. You want me to give them some of my cows? I'd do that too. But he hardened his heart. You know why? It's because he wanted to lay his hand on Egypt. Now let's go into Exodus, the 10th chapter. I'm just showing you, sisters and brothers, how this thing is going. And if you find out how things have gone, then you will know how things will go in the future. Want to know what God going to do tomorrow? Find out what he did yesterday. He ain't going to do no new thing. Verse 3, go ahead.
And Moses and Aaron came in unto Pharaoh and said unto him, Thus said the Lord God of the Hebrews,
Go ahead.
How long wilt thou refuse to humble thyself before me? Let my people go, that they may serve me.
Let my people go, that they may serve me. Go ahead and read.
Else, if thou refuse to let my people go, behold, tomorrow I will bring the locusts into thy coast.
Ain't that something? So if you got any kind of vegetation left, these guys are going to mop it up. I'm going to bring them into your coast. He didn't listen. Skip down to verse 12. Verse 12 and go ahead.
And the Lord said unto Moses, Stretch out thine hand over the land of Egypt for the locusts, that they may come up upon the land of Egypt and eat every herb of the land, even all that the hail hath left.
He said, look, I'm going to clean Egypt up. I'm telling you, he laid a blow on Egypt. Go ahead and read.
And Moses stretched forth his rod over the land of Egypt, and the Lord brought an east wind upon the land all that day and all that night. And when it was morning, the east wind brought the locusts.
Now skip down to verse 15 and go ahead.
For they covered the face of the whole earth, so that the land was darkened, that they did eat every herb of the land, and all the fruit of the trees which the hail had left, and there remained not any green thing in the trees, or the herbs of the field through all the land of Egypt.
That was except for where Israel was, sisters and brothers. So they came and they ate up everything, the locusts. That was the fifth plague that Israel had escaped. The fifth one. Skip down to verse, what's that, 20? And go ahead.
But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart so that he would not let the children of Israel go.
He still wouldn't let them go. So he hardened his heart. Go ahead.
And the Lord said unto Moses, Stretch out thine hand toward heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, even darkness which may be felt. And Moses stretched forth his hand toward heaven, and there was a thick darkness in all the land of Egypt 3 days.
Well, that is some real dark. I'm going to show you how dark it was. Go ahead.
They saw not one another, neither rose any from his place for 3 days.
They just sat there. You in your chair, you just sat there for 3 days. It was so dark, you couldn't even see where you was going to take your step. They just sat there and didn't move for 3 days. Go ahead.
But all the children of Israel had light in their dwellings.
Ain't that something? The Lord had fixed that thing. All of them had light in their dwellings. So now, this was what? The sixth plague? Mm-hmm. Because the Lord is working on Egypt, sisters and brothers. But then the Lord did this by the hand of Moses. Skip down to go into verse 24 and go ahead.
And Pharaoh called unto Moses and said, Go ye, serve the Lord. Only let your flocks and your herds be stayed. Let your little ones also go with you.
Go ahead.
And Moses said, Thou must give us also sacrifices and burnt offerings, that we may sacrifice unto the Lord our God.
Go ahead.
Our cattle also shall go with us. There shall not an hoof be left behind.
That Moses getting real sassy now, ain't it? He's talking to the king of Israel. Look, we got to take our cows, and we're not going to leave a hoof behind. I know that had to make Pharaoh mad. Go ahead and read.
For there must we take to serve the Lord our God, and we know not with what we must serve the Lord until we come thither. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let them go.
Go ahead.
And Pharaoh said unto him, Get thee from me. Take heed to thyself. See my face no more. For in that day thou seest my face, thou shalt die.
See, that's what made Pharaoh. He used that word what Moses said to make Pharaoh mad. Look here, man, we're going to take every cow. We ain't going to leave a hoof behind. What? I tell you what, you better get out of my face. The next time I see you, mister, you going to die. What did Moses say? Was Moses scared? Go ahead and read.
And Moses said, Thou hast spoken well.
He said, You spoken well. Somebody going to die. Go ahead.
I will see thy face again no more.
See, Moses knew what was going on, sisters and brothers. He said, I ain't going to see your face no more. So we done brought 6 plagues without Israel. But the whole amount is how many plagues? It's 9 so far. And one going to be 10. But now let's go and get that last one that's going to spring Israel. Let's go into Exodus the 12th chapter. And we're going to start reading that verse 1. Exodus 12 and 1. Exodus 12 and 1. You know, they did some scientific things, and they found out this thing really took place, but they tried to say it is a freak of nature, some kind of phenomenon. Everybody wants to say, they say even like they found fish way up in mountains in place of flood, but everybody wants to say, well, you know, it must have been, you know, fish get rain out of the sky sometime. How they get up there? They don't acknowledge Noah's flood. Get all these smart people. He ain't figured out yet, how did I get here? Mm-hmm. That's the big question. Right. How did I get here? Exodus 12 and 1. 12 and 1. Go ahead.
And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, this month shall be unto you the beginning of month. It shall be the first month of the year to you.
Go ahead.
Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, and the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house.
See, this is when Passover was instituted, sisters and brothers. Now the Lord did through a little... you know, he's been operating all this time under grace. This is what people don't understand. But now, I mean, just by separating you. But now he's doing something to show you, you got to do something to separate yourself now.
We would like to invite you to join us on the Sabbath Day Live via the internet. Log into our website, which is www.theisraelofgod.com. Click on the link Sabbath Day Live on our homepage. You will need Windows Media Player to view our program. We stream live twice every Sabbath at 10 a.m. and 1:30 p.m. Central Time. If you enjoy our program, we would appreciate your donations to help defer the cost of continuing this work. Send donations to the Israel of God, 2515 East 75th Street, Chicago, Illinois, 60649. Also, if you're in the Chicago area, please feel free to join us at our study class located at 2515 East 75th Street here in Chicago.